4 years ago, Indiana voters watched $50 million spill into a U.S. Senate race, and we obviously saw the Indiana Treasurer Richard Murdoch upset the longtime U.S. Senator Dick Lugar in the Republican primary. In the next 48 hours after his victory, he said some things that were pretty amazing, pretty insensitive, and that kind of set the tone for his race against Democrat Joe Donnelly. And as we all know, Donnelly won that November. It seemed to me through that summer, they tried to put Murdoch on a leash. They weren't confident that he was going to shoot his mouth off, and ultimately in the final debate in October he did, and Donnelly won. This time in 2016 we have a similar situation. We have an open U.S. Senate seat. Senator Dan Coats announced he's retiring, and now we've got two very spirited races going on in both parties. On the Republican side, you have two congressmen, Marlin Stutzman from Howey, Indiana, and Todd Young from Bloomington, giving up their House seats to run. We've got the former Republican chairman, Eric Holcomb, who's been crisscrossing the state, very similar to what Mitch Daniels did in 2003, 2004. His hook is he's shooting a basketball shot in every county. And right now, I think it's a wide open race, and it may become even more so if State Senator Mike Delph gets in. Senator Delph came up to Crown Point, met with the Living Stone Church folks there who encouraged him to get into the race. So we may have a four-way Republican race. Right now, Todd Young seems to be the guy that has the most money in his war chest. But I really think this is a wide open race at this point. It's way too early to determine who the front runner is. If you go simply based on money, then Todd Young probably might have a little bit of an advantage, but we've got Club for Growth, who obviously played a huge role in Richard Murdoch's campaign 4 years ago. They've thrown in with Marlin Stutzman, and they've got to hope that he's a little bit more disciplined than Richard Murdoch was last time. On the Democrat side, former Congressman Barron Hill is trying to get the Democratic nomination. He ran for the seat 25 years ago, and he is being challenged by John Dickerson, who worked with ARC of Indiana. That's an advocacy group for disabled people. And so we've got a bit of a Democratic race there. I think Hill's probably in pretty decent shape. He's got better name ID. He'll probably have a better chance to raise money, but it's worth watching. Barron Hill only raised about $150,000 in the first reporting period, which didn't really, light a fire with a lot of people. So we've got potentially a competitive race there. And then in the fall of 2016, when the Republicans and the Democrat nominees meet, there's just way too many factors to figure out. We don't know how the gubernatorial race is going to go. We don't know who the presidential nominees are going to be. And so the U.S. Senate race could be very similar. It could be unpredictable, and I think there's going to be a lot of national money from super PACs that are going to spill into Indiana, similar to what happened in 2012. So folks, fasten your seatbelts for this U.S. Senate race.